Welcome back, Troglodytes, to your daily dose of guitar information, the Trogly's Guitar Show. Today, I'm going to teach you about a really cool limited edition Epiphone model that was birthed in the early 2000s, and it's part of what Epiphone called their E-Series. So while I'm unboxing this, let me tell you about the Epiphone E-Series. The E-Series was first birthed in the year 2001, mainly designed to appeal to the youth with edgy designs, hot pickups, and crazy names. But perhaps the coolest thing about them is the flighted E logo. So these didn't actually read Epiphone on the headstock, which back then, Epiphone headstocks, they kind of looked weird. They just recently fixed those to a different style of headstock, but they would just read Epiphone, and that wasn't as cool for some people. So the whole flighted E logos always really spoke to me because, you know, it just kind of made them something unique and different, just like all these body shapes. Now, there's a whole slew of different models, but some of my favorites are the Beast, which is an Explorer that has like a little swoop at the bottom, and up by the cutaway area, they have the Slasher, which has to be my favorite of the entire series. It's kind of like Epiphone's take on a new version of a Firebird, and on some of these models, like the Slasher and Beast, you can actually find the FX series, which has built-in effects like distortion and chorus in them. How cool is that? But they also had like the Nuclear Les Paul models. I'm not quite entirely sure if the Pierced SG belongs within here, because it doesn't have the flighted E, it just has the E logo. But then there are also models in development called the Apollo, the Modern, the Futura, and the Comet. Those were very strange things. And essentially how the used market views these things is they're very high asking prices with very low sell rates. So they're cool and quirky, but not necessarily ultra highly, crazily valuable. So you're probably curious, which model did I buy and why did I buy it? Well, my friends, this is known as the Epiphone Evolution, and it looks like this. What an interesting Explorer, right? So, regular stuff going on here, except for we kind of have like the other model that we were just talking about, an extra swoop here. But instead of just the indent down here, we've got like this whole bat wing thing going on. This is just an interesting take on the Explorer. But there's actually a very peculiar reason that made me want to buy this thing. Okay, so I'm just browsing YouTube one day, and I happened to come across a suggestion called Limozeen. I was like, oh my goodness, I haven't listened to Limozeen in such a long time. Which, just in case you're not familiar with them, they are a parody metal band from the homestarrunner.com. That's where my name Trogly comes from, at least half of it, you know, from the whole Trogdor thing. And while Limozeen plays a very small role in all that stuff, I'm a big fan of the Spee-mails, strong bad emails. If you're not familiar with those, definitely go check them out. Very good early internet humor. So the song that was suggested to me on YouTube was Because It's Midnight, one of my favorite songs out of all of their parodies. And what's it with parody bands actually being better than what they're actually trying to parody? I mean, things like Death Clock has very good songs, but it's not necessarily meant to be. But if you're not familiar with Limozeen, spelled with a Z there, kind of think of them like Steel Panther, but a little bit more family friendly. And less professional, I guess you could say. So anyways, the song is called Because It's Midnight. And so I listened to the audio, having the greatest time of my life. I hadn't listened to them in such a long time. It was the happiest I'd been in years. And then I decided, hey, you know what? I actually want to watch the official music video of this. And then I saw this guitar and it's like, oh my goodness, that's one of the Epiphone E-Series guitars, but I couldn't remember the name of this one because the Slasher was the one I always wanted to review. But after doing a little bit of searching, I found it, the Epiphone Evolution. So I searched it up on Reverb and I just happened to see one in the exact color that I wanted. And you know, sometimes that's actually pretty rare to find these things. Now it was listed for $600, which was way more than I wanted to pay, but you know, nostalgia stuff. It's like, all right. I made him a very fair offer and he accepted, and now it's here. Because you gotta remember, when I was watching those shows, I wasn't necessarily into guitars yet, so I never even realized that, you know, that was a thing. But you can go through like their animated shorts, including their music video, and you can see them. This strange, weird Epiphone guitar influenced all that. But then there was another mystery model that they used, which kind of looks like a giant Roadrunner thing. But in case you've always wondered what that was based off of, it's an offshoot of Hondo called Coyote. Such weird, strange guitars. So yeah, this is the official, unofficial Limozeen signature Epiphone guitar. And I just had to buy it to tell you guys that story. Do I have high hopes that this is a fantastic guitar? No, I've had these things in the past, and like the E-Series, they're good and they're nice, but I mean, as far as being worth $500, yeah, probably not. This particular one really beat up, but hey, we're just here to have fun. So I think this guitar inspired their song. It's got the heart of a lion up here and the wings of a bat. So first impressions here, it feels like a regular Explorer, but maybe just a little bit smaller, but it's got this whole swooped cut down here. It's got the sculpting right here, but then on the back, we have this giant comfort cut. Now you're also going to notice this is a bolt-on neck series guitar. We have the maple necks, which Gibsons aren't known for. But to learn more about this one, let's go ahead and throw it on the workbench to take an individual look at its parts and specs. Inside the Limozeen guitar, let's check this thing out. First thing I noticed when I played on this a little bit is it must have a really flat fretboard radius because it feels like there's no radius at all. But before we dive too far into that, let's check out our pickups here. Now originally these pickups would have had covers over them that had the same E logo. That's kind of what makes these things cool. So I don't know if these are actually the original pickups and somebody took those off pretty cleanly or not. I've heard that the E-Series pups are pretty hot, but as far as like an official name, I'm not really sure. It just says Epiphone on the back. And the same thing is true for the bridge. We have a 2 in our bridge pickup cavity and nothing here in our neck. Now besides this Explorer model not having a pick guard, having this extra swoop right here, we've got the whole bat wing thing going on down there, and the comfort cut on the back, what makes it unique is the fact that it's actually a string through Explorer. That's awesome. Kind of reminds me of like the Dean Z's, just not in the Flying V format, I guess you could say. But you have the Tunematic style bridge here, just reads B2 on the back, as many of imports do. And then I would imagine this is master volume, master tone, with a 3-way toggle switch here. They're all done up in what looks like black chrome. And if you're wondering where the output jack is, it's over here, kind of by your strap, so you can kind of tie that into there. The readings I'm getting are pretty erratic. I'm thinking there might be something wonky with our output jack, but the bridge 2.75, that can't be right. Neck 2.62. Middle position 2.24. Yeah, something's not right there. Something's not right. I've also had it like reading 15 to 16, but I'll deal with that off of camera because there was also some shipping damage that we've got to talk about. We've got like some impressions in the wood underneath there. It wouldn't surprise me if it left the factory like that, but obviously all the edges of pointy guitars always get bashed in and whatnot, and this one is no exception. It's got a lot of touch-ups. But it is kind of a cool metallic red finish. Most of these E-Series guitars came in like a metallic red, you kind of got a pelham blue, and then they had an ebony version. I'm not really sure what these bodies are made of. It's kind of a light-colored wood, and if you get it in the light just right, you can see the wood grain underneath it. It looks something similar to mahogany. But now let's move on to this fretboard. What's going on here? We've got 22 frets. They've got some pretty decent height to them. It has the typical Gibson Epiphone 24 3/4 inch scale length. But as opposed to the 12-inch radius that we normally have, you can tell there's a little bit too much room there. According to my gauges, it's like the closest to 16. I mean, this feels ridiculously flat. And the neck is pretty thin, but I'd still say more of a C shape. It's just such a interesting feeling. But it appears we have some sort of a rosewood fretboard going on here with our dot inlays. The nut measures 1.68 inches and increases to 2.04 by the 12th. The first fret neck depth, 0.82, and definitely stays slim at 0.87 by the 12th. Here's that neck profile at the 1st and 12th fret. It's just a really flat feeling at the top and then just a little bit of a rounded C on the back. So I was curious what this whole chip was about. I mean, everything else was bashed in. It's not that uncommon for something to get hit here, but it looks like there's actually been a repair right here where this whole chunk of the side was just knocked off. That's why the finish kind of looks weird right here. And I took that tuner out to see, and yeah, you've got glue in there. Somebody's definitely repaired that at some point. And then apparently this nut was falling out on somebody and they just glued it in there as well. Not very professional work on this one, definitely amateur hour, but somebody probably had a great time gigging this thing. It appears to be all original. Our truss rod does appear to function and turn, and we've got the Epiphone iceberg style truss rod cover. And there is our E logo. I call it the flighted E because, you know, it just kind of looks like a badge that a pilot would wear or something. But since I have the tuner off, it says made in Korea, just like the guitar. Moving on to the backside. Again, bolt-on neck, tells you it was made in Korea. You've also got your serial number right here, which is kind of cool. It's all ones and zeros and then one lone 2 down there. We've got this big, deep comfort carved swoop back here. And you can definitely tell where all the paint touch-ups were done to this one and all your regular locations down here. You got lots of nicks and dings on this thing too. But look at our control cavity here.
To me, it looks close enough to original, but it's a 20-year Epiphone where there's not very much information out there online. That's why I wanted to document it too. But it looks like it had 500k pots. And apparently they just routed a channel right here to get to your output jack. And you've got your strap button down here kind of by the middle horn, and the other one in like your regular Les Paul territory. And unfortunately, I think this might have occurred during shipping. There is a large crack running down the side of the guitar. Now, it's very common to get finish checks in this area, but if you rub your nail along this, you can tell it's not level, so that tells you that is definitely in the wood. Whereas this one on the treble side, I believe that's probably just in the finish, but you know, it happens. Just look how big the neck heel is and how far the body extends right there. That's a huge weak point. I'd imagine cracks in that area for these guitars is pretty common. However, unfortunately, this one didn't quite survive the shipping without a case or anything. By the way, if you're trying to find a case for one of these, I think a regular Explorer case, it'll fit in it, but it's not going to be snug because I put another Explorer to this. If you match it tip to tip, a normal Explorer goes about an inch past this. So it's kind of just sculpted down in this area and they shorten the body just a hair. I've only got so many hands here, but here it is compared to a Lizzie Hale Explorer. You can kind of see what I'm talking about, how it just hangs over a little bit. And it's a little bit more shapely in these areas. All that aside, we can see actually some pretty nice wood grain in this neck. There's a little bit of dancing chatoyance going on, not a whole lot of like actually what I would call flame or anything, but you can see our original CE sticker right there and the rest of the tuners. You know, it's kind of strange that this area gets snapped, but like not up here. So Gibson creates these necks by using 3 different pieces, normally like right there and right here. But the way Epiphone does it is they craft these headstocks and then right here, it's a little bit hard to see, but they scarf join it to the rest of the neck. So that part is glued on and then they just create the bolt-on neck. But here you can see those repaired cracks in this area and a very long stemming crack right here. So it might not have ever actually completely broken off, but it definitely got the wood pretty bad right there. But all said and done, it's about 7.5 pounds, 7 pounds, 7 ounces. Let's go ahead, plug it in and try to get some sort of a tone demo. Let's go ahead and get what tones I can out of this. This is not a very good design. It's neck heavy, strap button location, not so good with that. Probably the worst pickups I've demoed in a long time. It doesn't like to stay in tune, but let's just have some fun with this thing. Starting with our neck pickup here. So, nothing all that special. I just don't think there's something right with these pickups, to be honest. They're just so dead sounding and quiet. The tone control hardly does anything. the pickups are pretty muddy, not that good sounding. Doesn't like to stay in tune, but you got some tones. I will say that neck gets a lot better sustain. Versus the bridge. Just kind of cuts out on you. It's that whole flat fretboard thing. Now that we know all about the Epiphone Evolution guitar and its kind of interesting past and who used it, what are my final thoughts on this thing? No, it's not very good. I would not suggest it to anybody. Now, as far as the body shape, I mean, if you maybe move your strap buttons to better locations and it balances better, that'd be cool, because it is a pretty sweet shape. It's a new take on what the Explorer could be. It's a little bit pointier than normal. So I mean, if you can find one of these for like $200, $300, it's a solid buy. But if you're like me and paid $500 for this piece of trash, yeah, you're not gonna be happy.
But thankfully, shipping insurance kicked in. Now I have $100 in this thing, and I'm plenty happy with it. So if you can get one of these things for like $250 and under, yeah, it's fun. The necks actually feel quite good once you get used to the whole flat fretboard radius. Obviously, somebody has at least taken the pickup covers off. I'm suspicious that they might have even been poorly rewound. Maybe not the best example to document in that case. But hey, now I have a budget where I could upgrade this thing if I really wanted to. And the electronics need gutted and redone, and honestly, the bridge is slightly collapsing as well. This is just a whole basket case of a guitar, but for $100, I'm happy. Alright, Troglodytes, I hope you enjoyed tonight's episode. We tried to have some fun. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll catch you tomorrow on the next one. Take care.